Tonight on Chronicle,
We don't think this is the right place or the right idea.
it's an issue that has many people fired up. A proposed natural gas pipeline planned to run through the heart of the Susquehanna Valley.
We don't want them down here. Why do they have to come to pristine, southern Lancaster County?
We walk the pipeline's route to see how it affects anyone in its path and dig deeper to find out what this project really means for our energy future.
It's enough to power 7 million U.S. homes every day.
We'll tell you how to make your voice heard to those who have the power to greenlight the project or stop it in its tracks. News 8's Chronicle on the Pipeline starts now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Lemon. Welcome to Chronicle. The proposed natural gas pipeline through Lancaster and Lebanon counties is drawing opposition from many residents in its path. But the company that wants to build it says the pipeline is very important to energy independence. So on this edition of Chronicle, we're taking an in-depth look into the issue. News 8's Mike Straub walked the planned route to show you the impact through their eyes.
Energy turns lights on, makes water hot, powers cars, and nations go to war over it. It also keeps you moving. First, let's walk back in time. Around 2000, the nation had only about 10 years worth of natural gas left domestically. But with advancements in hydraulic fracturing or fracking, we are living in a natural gas energy boom.
Experts are anticipating energy independence in the United States within 20 years.
Pennsylvania's shale gas is now world famous. The gas pouring out of well pads is selling before it can even move to the marketplace, which means gas companies need more pipelines to move the stuff, including right here in the Susquehanna Valley. The Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline expansion, 178 miles of new pipeline from northeast PA all the way down here in southern Lancaster County. It'll completely cross Lebanon County, most of Lancaster County. It will move 1.7 million decatherms of natural gas every day. What's a decatherm? No idea, but Williams says it's enough to power 7 million U.S. homes every day.
The problem with the quandary we face is we have all these sources of energy now that will last well over 100 years, but we don't have the infrastructure necessary to move it.
Now, we can't walk 178 miles, so what we're hiking is the Rock Springs expansion line. It's at about an 11 miles proposed pipeline that would run across southern Lancaster County and end at a natural gas power plant just across the state line. 11 miles, we can do that. We're taking this trip on foot to see and feel the real impact these pipelines would have and meet the people who would have to give up the most if the pipeline is built.
That's like the worst new neighbor I could ever have.
People like the Clatterbuck family in Mardick Township.
We're not like activists by nature, but we realized really early on that this chose us. We will do what it takes.
And what they have invested in this land cannot be measured in dollars.
All the stones in the background we picked out of the creek, and my father did all the masonry work. We built this growing up, the whole house.
The shoes look especially good with that dress, honey.
The proposed Williams pipeline could run right through their backyard.
We found pink ribbons through the woods, and we're like, that must be what it is.
Now they're leading efforts opposing the pipeline, hoping to force Williams out of Lancaster County.
I mean, I don't want to be stereotyped as a tree hugger. I'm not. I've never been an activist before. I just really feel like it is the land that gives us life, and I appreciate it, and there are some places that need to stay sacred.
Only about a mile in, and the path is already heating up.
We have seen emotions rise around these pipelines all summer long, Mike.
It's true, Kim. More and more people have become interested in this project, so let's show you exactly what we're talking about. The majority of the pipeline will be 42 inches in diameter. I don't have a pipeline, but this is your standard card table, which is about exactly the same size as those pipelines. It pushes gas about 1,200 pounds per square inch. That's equal to 12 fire hoses on at full blast. Here's the proposed path through Lebanon County, starting near Soterra State Park and entering Lancaster County near Mount Gretna. And in Lancaster County, the pipeline travels through Mount Joy, Raphoe Township, West Hempfield, continuing south to Conestoga Township and through southern Lancaster County, where it will hook up with the existing Transco pipeline, which carries the gas south. It takes compressor stations like this one to power all that gas along. The 178-mile line will have 5 compressor stations. Each produces about 3,600 horsepower to move that gas. That's the equivalent of about 4 NASCAR race cars under your feet. So when you think about this, going through your farm or your yard or even close to your neighborhood, you understand why people would have some questions. There have been public information meetings held by Williams partners and by opposition groups across the Susquehanna Valley this summer. People who are directly in the path of the line and also just county residents have raised questions and concerns about a project of this magnitude crossing Lebanon and Lancaster counties. And Kim, we also met plenty of opposition to these pipelines on our journey through southern Lancaster County.
They are signs of the times as we walk through southern Lancaster County. We found this sign in front of Larry Sinclair's Mardick Township home.
I'm born and raised here, and this right down the corner here is Fishing Creek, a cold waters trout fishery, and I moved as close as I could get because that's the wildest place for 100 miles.
And many people here don't like the idea of a 50-foot wide path through their woods, such as the one you see in this example of a finished natural gas pipeline path.
Is it really going to benefit anybody in Lancaster County? And they have a lot of different plans, backup plans. They move it here, move it there, and it's wherever they can go with the least complaints, is what it seems like to me.
Once the project is complete and all the earth is back on top that completed pipe, it becomes more like a friendly neighbor because it's only buried about 36 inches below your feet. So there's only about 3 feet from you to all that natural gas.
Even before we lived in the country, we didn't have TV.
That doesn't sit well with Mark and Melinda Clatterbuck.
This is land that has been farmed within families generation after generation after generation. And for us, it is irreplaceable.
The Clatterbucks see the pipelines as an unfair burden on the people who just happen to be living in the pipeline's path.
This gas does not benefit our township or our county or our state at all in terms of the, what's going to be flowing through these pipes.
The Williams Company examined multiple routes before deciding the current path was the best possible option.
If we can't avoid a certain area, then we minimize the impact to that area as much as possible using best management practices. And if we can't minimize, then we mitigate or compensate.
It's in the Constitution, Fifth Amendment of the Bill of Rights. Part of it says, "Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." It's been interpreted many different ways since our founding fathers agreed on that statement, and now landowners here in the Susquehanna Valley are just beginning to figure out what it means to them.
We basically compensate based on acre, and what we do is we look at a number of factors through the valuation process, the fair market value process, come up with a baseline of what the property's worth is, and then start negotiations from there.
For most landowners, it's a one-time payment. For farmers, they're paid over 3 years for any loss of production, and they can continue to farm the land the same way they have for generations.
We want to focus on establishing positive relationships with these folks because we're going to be in an agreement with them for decades.
Back at the Clatterbucks,
Out in the middle of nowhere.
their woods are not up for negotiation.
If he had offered us $10 million to cut down that 1.5 acres of woods, flat out would have just kicked him out of the house. Like, there's no decision to be made. It's not about money.
Halfway through our hike, still a few bumps in the road for everyone involved.
So now we've shown you some of the controversy, but coming up next on Chronicle, why many are calling this project crucial to the country's energy future. Also ahead, the deadly consequences that can come from a pipeline disaster. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chronicle. The proposed pipeline path is not only filled with opposition, there are also many willing landowners already working on compensation plans to allow for building through their property. On this leg of the journey, Mike Straub finds out what is driving project supporters.
This hike is full of farms fit for a painting. But now farmers used to bountiful harvests are preparing for something very different going into their ground.
It started with some letters that came to us, and it's just been going back and forth. They ended up visiting us. They've been staking out the property to find out what the best route would be.
The 42-inch pipeline would run 5 feet deep for acres underneath Graybill's dairy farm.
Really, we need the energy. We need to have some way of getting more electric generated. If this is the way it's going to have to be done, then so be it.
Even though we don't see any fracking sites on our walk, Lancaster County doesn't have any, natural gas money has reached our communities. Act 13 established impact fees on gas drilling companies, and Lancaster County has received $500,000 every year for things like conservation district funding and farmland preservation.
For a lot of people, the thought of losing a beautiful Lancaster County farm to a housing development or a strip mall makes their stomach turn. So how about this? Put a pipeline underneath it, can't build anything on that land, all but ensuring beautiful preserved farmland forever.
The Williams Company is not new to this area. They operate multiple gas lines in this part of Lancaster County, and 2 other natural gas lines that run from Texas to New York pass right through this county.
We've been operating safely and efficiently in Lancaster County for decades, and these pipelines tend to be so obscure after they're in place and operating for 50 years, for example, that people often don't even realize that they're there.
Coal made our state's hills famous, but as federal clean energy standards push coal to the brink of extinction, our new energy crop of natural gas becomes even more important to powering our nation.
Chances are, when you flick on your light switch, it's coming from a power plant that is producing energy by natural gas. And if it isn't, it's going to be. And to keep your electric bill costs down, this infrastructure is critical. Residents of Southeast PA that are UGI customers have already been benefiting by natural gas coming from other parts of the country. Now it's our turn to step up to the plate and provide this same cheap, economically abundant resource to other parts of the country so they can benefit.
And in today's world, for a lot of people, there is something reassuring about knowing our land produces our energy.
We can continue to be energy starved or energy challenged, relying on foreign sources of oil, or we can tap into these domestic sources and step towards energy independence.
Nearly perfect farmland, potentially growing Pennsylvania's most wanted resource.
While our state's gas is abundant and valuable, it also comes with a number of potential dangers. But the risks have not slowed down the growth of gas use in every corner of our nation. Pipelines now cross more than 300,000 miles of the continental U.S., enough pipeline to reach the moon and have another 60,000 miles of pipe left over. But moving the gas is no easy feat, particularly when a mistake in the pipeline building process can have deadly consequences.
September 9th, 2010, San Bruno, California. An explosion so large, 911 callers thought a jumbo jet crashed in the San Francisco suburbs. In reality, it was a natural gas pipeline explosion. A section of 30-inch diameter transmission line ruptured. 8 people were killed and dozens more injured. PG&E, the pipeline operators, are still in court facing more than $1 billion in fines after government officials accused the company of not properly welding the pipe in construction. It is the deadliest natural gas pipeline accident in recent history, and a stark reminder of the raw power hiding inside pipelines.
There's always a risk of the pipeline leaking, rupturing, even an extremely rare explosion. But down here on the southern end, they're already used to living near dangerous energy sources. That is a nuclear alarm in case anything happens at the Peach Bottom Energy Plant.
In the United States since 2009, natural gas transmission and distribution pipeline accidents have killed 43 members of the public and another 10 employees of the gas industry. Accidents have also caused more than $785 million in property damage. But as more and more states uncover fracking opportunities, natural gas has become a crucial part of powering America. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, more than 70 million Americans depend on natural gas for energy every day, consuming 22 trillion cubic feet of gas every year and making up 22% of all the energy used in our country.
Once again, the accident in California was not a Williams pipeline. Williams Partners tries to make its projects as safe as possible by installing thicker walled pipe than required in certain areas and x-raying 100% of the welds during construction. They test the pipeline at a higher pressure than required, and once it is in service, it conducts more frequent inspections than required by federal standards. They are also on hand to inspect production at steel mills where the pipes are made. Coming up next, who really has the power behind the pipeline? It all goes back to the federal government. We sit down with the feds to see what they are really looking for in approving or denying the project, plus how the frustration of residents plays into their decisions.
It's kind of what you do in this country. I mean, you have property rights, but when there's utilities, they can go through.
We're fairly in favor of it if it's going to help the population have more power.
But the fact is that this is not good for us or for our country.
It is the way that we have to satisfy and move our energy and be able to tap these enormous resources that we are blessed with.
A big question in this process, how much power do the residents living along the proposed natural gas pipelines really have? Well, now News 8's Mike Straub discovers who's really in charge of this project.
This hill's no joke.
Take your own walk in southern Lancaster County, and you'll find a Williams Company pipeline. It's been moving gas through here for more than 60 years. However, it is not 42 inches in diameter or carrying gas at a pressure around 1,500 pounds per square inch like the one Williams is proposing now.
So many of us can be so, just fundamentally opposed to this, and that it might not matter at all.
About 9 miles in, met a lot of people, seen a lot of places, pretty tired. The people out here are united. They don't want to see really anything happen to their land. But no matter how much noise they make, no matter how many letters they write, if the federal government says this pipeline needs to be built, it's going to be built.
Every single one of the property owners we've talked to has been opposed to this, and strongly opposed, and what can I do to stop this opposed? And yet, in the end, it might not matter if FERC approves the project. You know, that overrides everything.
That's the frustration facing homeowners who are opposed to the line. FERC has the ultimate power. What they say determines the future of this project. So we sat down with FERC representatives before one of their recent public meetings to learn more about the pipeline approval process.
So tonight, we citizens gather here to prove that this pipeline is not safe or good for our county.
So I'm here tonight to support Williams and support the program.
The people at this microphone have waited months for this moment.
This will directly impact the air quality and the health of people living in the surrounding areas.
A chance to tell the feds exactly how they feel about these proposed pipelines.
The amount of interest that we have in this project seems to be a larger magnitude than normal.
Elisa Likens is a branch manager for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. It is her job to hear the concerns of residents impacted by a possible energy pipeline.
Probably 44 out of 48 states I've worked in pipelines. And it's rewarding for me because I know that if this project is to get approved, that I'm making a difference and listening to concerns and evaluating and making adjustments in the route, helping, and hearing concerns that are out there and being able to help.
The FERC takes comments online and in person and then sets out on foot to examine the public's concerns.
Transco's put a line on the map, and we are pretty much trying to fine-tune that line with them along with the public.
This meeting is about environmental concerns. The FERC examines everything from air emissions and runoff to noise pollution and local economic impact.
It's important to remember that we in the back of this room are actually the people who are impacted here.
FERC also requires Williams to present why this project is really needed, including market demands and costs for customers. All of it is then compiled and presented to the 5-member panel for approval or changes.
The projects that come in rarely go out the same way. That's part of our job, and that's what we do. We want to make sure, if a route comes through, it's the best vetted route that we can look at and approve. If the commission finds the project's needed, it's our job to find that route and get it make sure it's as environmentally sound as possible.
FERC's final decision can be challenged in federal court. If approved, the FERC sends out inspectors every 3 weeks during construction to watch crews at work. It also watches the restoration process, making sure property owners are taken care of the way they were promised. Kim?
Thank you, Mike. Before we go to a break, we want to take a minute to tell you more about Chronicle. It represents News 8's commitment to covering big topics affecting the Susquehanna Valley. And we will continue to bring you specials like this one as those topics emerge. When Chronicle returns, we'll tell you where we are in the process of this pipeline proposal and why the time is now if you want to let the government know your opinion about the project. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chronicle. The fate of the pipeline is far from decided. The project is still considered to be in the pre-filing phase as Williams and the FERC determine the best possible path for the project. Mike Straub now shows us a timeline of how far the project has come, what's next, and when you can get involved in the pipeline approval process.
The pipeline proposal landed on the Susquehanna Valley this past spring when surveyors first started knocking on doors to find a potential route. In April, Williams began their pre-filing process with the FERC. Open houses followed this summer, and Williams has already changed the route by more than 20% after public feedback. We are here. FERC is accepting public comments online at ferc.gov. This will continue for the next few months until early next year, when Williams officially files an application with the FERC. A 45-day public input period will open up while the FERC goes through final examination of the application. If approved, pipeline construction will start in the summer of 2016, with gas service scheduled to begin in fall of 2017.
Because the project is in the pre-filing stage, you can still voice your concerns at ferc.gov. We have set up a link to that on our website. But something to leave you with. When we spoke to the FERC, they made it clear that natural gas is a key part of America's energy future. This pipeline would carry gas south to places where natural gas is less abundant and therefore more expensive. The FERC says that plays a big part in its ultimate decision. Kim?
Thank you, Mike, and that's going to bring an end to this edition of Chronicle. But we're going to keep following all the developments with this proposed pipeline here at News 8 and make sure that you are informed at every step. Good night.